All right, welcome into another edition. It's Puck the Huskies Podcast. It's all brought to you by Georgetown Brewery. It's locally owned and operated. Two diehard Huskies, Manny and Roger. They've been pouring the best local craft beer for the past 23 years. Manny's Pale Ale, Bodie's Zaffa, Lucille, Rogers Pilsner. They've got it all. Tap room is open 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week. Visit georgetownbeer.com. I would say, hey, welcome Jordan Reffett, but that guy's drunk on a beach in Mexico probably.
I'm not going to make fun of him. I'm really not, because I think you and I both wish we were there too.
Oh, I would switch positions in a second with him to be on a beach in Mexico right now. But Elise Woodward is here, and that's all we need. All we need is the beautiful, the talented Elise Woodward. We gave the kids the day off last week because it was a bye after the Iowa game. I don't know if you want to recap the Iowa game at all, or just say it's over, let's move on. But I just want to know the experience. What was it like? I've heard that's a great town and a real fun college town. So what was the atmosphere like?
Yeah, no, it was great. I was able to be there, God, I don't even know how many years ago. Steve Sandmeyer and I got to hang out in Iowa City calling women's basketball in the NCAA tournament years ago.
You turned it up then a little bit.
We've had some fun in Iowa City, and it is a great city. It's like most of these Big Ten stops. It's a little difficult to get to, but once you're there, it was fun. They had a nice little little downtown area, and there was a volleyball game going on like right outside our hotel, like the arena right there. They do hockey, and at this point they had volleyball in there, which I think was unusual. But anyway, it was great. The Friday night before, we had a good dinner and all that, and then the day of the game was awesome. What's cool about where the stadium is you're literally going through neighborhoods. There are homes right next to the stadium, and the stadium holds just about 70,000 people. Iowa City's population is 75,000 people, and it did feel like every single member of the community was dressed in yellow and black, and you're like cruising through on the buses, and it's a big deal. It is the only thing in town. And after the game, they were all fired up, obviously, and leaving in the team buses. It was just people with their tailgates at their homes. Every single home, people were hanging out and celebrating. So it was a cool environment. And then, of course, the wave at the end of the first quarter is one of the coolest things I've ever been a part of in terms of college football, with, the kids in the Children's Hospital. And it was every fan, every player from home and away, every coach took time to wave to the kids in the Children's Hospital who were battling injuries and illness. So that was awesome. So they had a great game production with the striped sections. So yeah, all that was good. The result, not so much.
Yeah, I mean, for people who don't know, at the end of the first quarter, the Children's Hospital like overlooks the stadium. So like from their hospital beds, and you can see them on TV from their hospital beds, they can look in to the stadium. And I don't know, maybe you do know, I don't know when it started, but
it's fairly recently. It was back in 2017. It was in 2017, and they started this tradition, and then it's an awesome tradition.
It's awesome. It's terrific.
And any way that you can do that, which is essentially the best part about sports, is involving the community and all the great things that you can do. But they also recently they added, so they pick one of the kids at the hospital gets to pick, like they choose a kid. I don't know how they choose it, but they get to choose a song. So during that first quarter break, one of the kids in the hospital gets to choose the song that's playing for the entire stadium. So not only are they getting waved at, they're like, guess what I picked? So the kid picked All I Do Is Win, 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 no matter what, which was awesome. And hopefully for all those kids at the hospital, they're going to win their battles. And so that part was everything about the environment and college football. That was a win for sure.
Hey, you and I are just, we're massive sports fans. All right. So, I mean, clearly that's why we're in this business. Do you get envious when you go to these places? Like when you go to the Midwest, and I would assume have you done games or visited the South?
Well, we went to LSU one year, which was awesome, with the Tiger on the sideline and Shaq hanging out. That was pretty cool.
Do you get envious of it? Because it just, right, the SEC's got it just means more, right? But when you go to the Midwest and you go to the SEC schools, it just, everyone, and part of it is because a lot of these places, Iowa City, they don't have professional teams.
Correct.
And really, there's not a lot of professional teams close by. And so this is their pro team. But it does feel that when you go to these areas, they are just so much more into it than any place else. And I don't know,
yeah,
West Coast, we have too much stuff going on. It's just too nice outside. What is it?
I don't know, but I will say that I think that from my own experience visiting, there's some great environments on the West Coast. There really are. Yeah. But there's most of them, and we've seen this with travel, most of them, like obviously in Pullman and Corvallis, those are small towns with very little else going on except for their universities.
Right.
But you look at the rest of what was the Pac-12, and it was big cities with other options. Okay. You go to the SEC and you go to anybody in the Big Ten. Rutgers, hey, they had a pretty good environment. I'm not going to lie. They were a big city. It felt like a pro environment.
Okay.
And there is a difference, right? Like you've been to many pro games around. I'm sure you've been to many professional stadiums outside of here in Seattle. There's just a different vibe to a professional game as to a college game. I feel like Arizona basketball had a professional vibe to it. And I don't know how to describe it. That's just what I felt. And same with Oregon. But then, other locations had more of the small call. It's just an interesting one. I don't know what it is.
When you say Oregon, do you think Oregon football has more of a pro vibe to it than a college?
No. Basketball, I think, was that arena. Okay. In Matt Knight Arena, it's an arena, and I don't know. It's really hard to describe the differences. You just know it when you feel it.
Sure.
But like Mac Court back in the day, Oregon felt much more like a college vibe. And then moving to Matt Knight Arena, I felt like it's more of a pro vibe. And there's nothing. It's just a different. It's just a different feel. Rutgers, I thought they had a really good game presentation on the road at Rutgers, and they did a good job. It just felt more professional, and I don't know what it is. They had a good student section there too, but just more homey, I guess, with the small town vibes. But
it just feels like I don't know. It just feels like it's more important to them, that it's just it's a bigger deal, and it's they all kind of rally for that Saturday to go and watch their football team or watch their basketball team.
You don't feel like that in Pullman?
I mean, to a degree sometimes, but it depends on the opponent. If the opponent isn't good, like they won't fill it out, and that's 38,000. So it's like, I don't know. And it's, and I get the travel difficulties, and it's not like 70,000 people live in Pullman. I mean, it's,
sure.
It's 32,000. And
you're the same as Iowa City.
28,000 of them are students, and not all, every student's going to go to the game. It's, it's 5 hours, 5.5 hours away from, the biggest city, which, most alums live. And then, whatever, it's all the other issues that go into that.
I will say, Puck, that like from going around, there's a different vibe in every stadium in every city, but there's some amazing vibes out on the West Coast. Like you said, now maybe it's not, I'm always there with UW, who's generally a pretty good football team that people get up for playing. So it's hard to gauge, but there's the environment around Husky Stadium when there's like the Michigan environment was outstanding, and it's been great. Utah always had a really good crowd and revelers, and I was in Provo the other day when they had their football team getting after it. So anyway, I
think Washington is great. I think Oregon's great. I think at times Corvallis can be great. Again, opponent Wazoo can be great. Utah, I think we mentioned Utah, but back in the day, Arizona's terrible. ASU's terrible. UCLA and USC are just they weren't good atmospheres. But you see that scene in Iowa, and you're going to experience. I think I'm jealous of this because I want to go watch a game there in a couple of weeks. I've heard nothing but just unbelievable things about Happy Valley, because Happy Valley, it seems like it's one of those old, like there's very few of these true like college campuses, right? And like Happy Valley's like one of them. It's like, that's it. That's the entire town is that school. And that I bet that's going to be an awesome environment. And it's just fun.
It's going to be a whiteout too. So that's a whiteout at night in November. So I'm already buying my hand warmers and getting ready. But it's funny. I don't know how those people get in and out of Happy Valley. Like, I was trying to figure out how. That's why it's like going to be an entire whiteout. Nobody can get in there unless you're in the air. It's so hard. You have to make so, I mean, it is insane in terms of getting a hotel there, any transportation. It's like trying to go to the White River Amphitheater, baby. There's like one road in and one road out, and you are stuck if you want to go there.
I'll never go back. I don't care who's playing there. I'll never go back. It's that bad.
I feel your pain, and I would agree. You have to wait it out for hours. You cannot try to get out of there.
So the Iowa game, right? The first half looks okay, and then the second half they just pull away, and what have you, and maybe the physicality of Iowa and just things unraveled for them, and the game got away. What do you think is the point of emphasis in that bye week, Elise, as now they get ready for, again, it's another 9 a.m. start. You're facing a ranked team. College game days there. Indiana's on cloud 9. They're playing as good as anyone in the country. You could make a great argument. They haven't been quite tested yet. I mean, last week maybe Nebraska and they handle them, but who knows how good Nebraska is. What was the emphasis during the bye week to get ready for the Hoosiers?
Well, I mean, I think there's a couple of things. One, with Washington, they played really well through 6 games and outgained their opponent through 6 games. The Iowa game on the road, I felt like they had a pretty good start. It was a 3-and-out defensively. Yep. I think it was a crusher. They had a 14-play drive and missed the field goal. And when you talk about what needs to be cleaned up, their special teams has been absolutely atrocious in every single category. Every category has sucked, and they have to fix that. They're 133rd out of 134 teams in the special team measurables. So Grady Gross is a stud, but anybody that's ever been an athlete has gone through a slump. And everybody and anybody who's ever put on a uniform of every kind knows when you can't start doubting yourself. You got to find a way to push through it. So, Jed told the story about just for him, putting some pressure on him. The whole team's going to run if you don't make this kick. And believe me, that is as much pressure when you do not want your team on. That's real pressure now for a 100-man roster to be like, come on, man.
What is it? Did they do this? They do this in practice?
They did this in practice. So Jed Fish told the story that, it is a mental game so much, especially kicking, because it's just you on an island, man, and everybody sees you and everybody.
That's terrible.
It is. And so you got to give some grace. You're going to miss some kicks once in a while.
Of course, yeah.
I don't know if the protection has been great. It was hard to tell the block, whether that was a guy got through, it was a low kick, it was probably a combo. But so they lined up Grady Gross in practice the other day, and Jed Fish told him, it's like the whole team is going to be running multiple gassers if you miss this kick. If you make this kick, practice is over. Bring it. Like, Grady was an absolute stud last year. Like, this dude is nails. He was unblemished in last year's postseason run. He was absolutely nails. So that the kid is a stud. But sometimes as an athlete, you just got to work through this stuff. And people that don't understand are like, oh, he sucks. Shut up with that. It sucks that he has missed some kicks. There's no doubt. But this is a kid that has proven that he's a good kicker, that is clutch. But anyway, he made the kick, and it was a 48-yarder, and the team got out of practice. And you just hope something like that. It's just, it's just like life, man. Sometimes it hits you, just punches you right in the face, and you got to get back up, and you just got to keep going forward and get over some of, your failures. And so hopefully for him, that is, I think, the best part of special teams, that has just been like, wait, what? What is going on? That, I think, is correctable, and I think he will. The coverage units have got to get better. It is with the new rule recently added in the last couple of years. If you get the ball at the 25-yard line on kickoffs, and yet every single team is taking it out, and like the 25 is their minimum. I feel like it's a real chance most of the time. You take it out, you might only get to the 17, 18. That's the way it should be. So you just take it to the 25, but teams are blowing past the 30-yard line. Field position has been bad. The punt game, I feel like everything's a fair catch, and yet other teams are getting significant yards. It just, the whole thing in the bye week needed to be cleaned up. So that, I think, is a major factor in why they're outgaining teams and yet have 3 losses. So if they can clean up that portion of their game, I think it will pay huge dividends starting at Indiana.
Yeah, it's interesting this week on one of the other the podcasts I do with Cougs Corner, where we talk to either Jake Dickert or a player. This week we talked to Dean Janikowski, and he had the same thing. It's going back to last year, going back to the Apple Cup last year. He's been a struggle for him, and he talked about like the mental pressure of being a kicker and being on an island by yourself, and
100%.
Then the social media aspect of it.
Yep.
I don't know what Grady's on social media. Dean told me, hey, I had to get off of it because you can't focus in on the negativity and just all the little things that, he tricks himself and talks to himself, during that process, because it's like it's one of the loneliest jobs in the world because you are on an island, at least by yourself.
Yeah.
And if you don't make it, it's your fault.
100%.
That's it.
I mean, there's things in a team sport. It's very rare when literally all eyes are on you. And yes, you got to have a good snap. You got to have a good hold. You need protection. And some of that has broken down. It's not all on Grady now. And Jed Fish mentioned that. But there's very few places in sport where it's pretty much you. If you're a pitcher, that's on you, right? That's a very stressful starting pitcher in baseball or softball, the case may be. Or what else? Like, there's just maybe at the free throw line, right? That's just you, baby. That's just you. You go to that free throw line. Nobody's there to help you. It's you, and now all eyes are on you. So those pressure situations, if you haven't stepped up to that with the pressure on the line, then you probably aren't as forgiving or as understanding when people go through slumps.
Sure. All right, so Indiana, the matchup coming up on Saturday, another 9 a.m. start. College game day is there. We mentioned that. Now, Curtis Rourke is going to be out.
Yeah.
He's not. So another gift. You don't have to face a good quarterback. It's unbelievable this year with you guys.
Well, who says that Jackson's not a good quarterback? They're back.
I don't know.
He needs some reps.
He
Sounds
was
like
there.
He's a dual threat guy. Got some time last year and threw a couple of touchdowns last week. So,
do you know the interesting tidbit about him?
Give me the interesting tidbit. What
you're going to use this on the sideline when they send it down to you. What's the sideline report brought to you by?
Pen seeker. I know Tony. That's Tony's job, not mine. I just talk on the sideline.
All I can think about right now.
Pen seeker sideline.
All I can think about right now is our good friend Sandmeyer when he used to mock. I don't know if it was Brian Davis or the guy that used to do the Seahawks games before Brian Davis went. Let's go down to the sideline. McTardahan's update. Like, who was the guy that was there for 1 year? Like he was like the Chargers guy, and I'm blanking on him. Anyways, Tavian Jackson is the son of Ray Jackson. Ray Jackson is a former Washington State defensive back from back in the 90s.
So the Cougs have a chance to stick it to the Huskies one more time.
Yes,
is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, we've got a Trojan horse on the field in Bloomington. Ray Jackson was part of the Rose Bowl team with Ryan Leaf and that squad and those great Cougar defenses in the 90s.
How much of a fossil do you and I feel like that this kid is a starting quarterback? Rose Bowl team of 97. Well, oh my God!
Yeah, I feel old, and also my back went out on me when I got out of bed this morning. So. That too. So just a little interesting tidbit. So when they send it down to you, you can
okay,
have
I'm
that
going to do
tidbit.
That courtesy of you, Puck. I will say courtesy of my good friend Jason Puckett.
Yeah.
This is your nugget on Jackson.
So is he is I haven't seen the kid play. He's more of a dual threat than
yeah,
Rourke.
It sounds like he sounds like and to be fair, that probably poses it's obviously a big time threat because Washington has been very good against the pass. And maybe people will say it was skewed against Iowa because they didn't need to pass. They were just running the ball. But the secondary for Washington is their strength defensively, in my opinion. And so they've had some issues, not anything big time defensively. Their defense has been pretty stout, but the dual threat quarterback, the running quarterback, the run game has been more of a problem than the pass game for the Huskies this season. So that's it's obviously a situation that Indiana, you don't know what to expect. They're the number one scoring team in the nation, but they lost their starting quarterback, which is the key to everything. So How are things going to change? How's it going to be different? Can the Huskies take advantage of that? You can imagine with college game day in there, it's like senior day, right? The emotions, the excitement. There's a lot of extra things going on, and it can work in your favor if you're Indiana, or it can be something that takes a while to get the motor running, and Washington can go in there and play free and play with a chip on their shoulder. They're 6.5-point underdogs on the road. And, and I do say against Iowa, they played tough. They did a lot of really good things. And in the third quarter, when they decided to go for it 2 times in a row in their own territory, the game was over. I mean, it was over. And they were within striking distance until then. And that really, it made it seem like it was a total and utter blowout, that they weren't in that game. And I wouldn't agree with that. Talent-wise on the field, Iowa outplayed them, deserved to win. There's no question about it. They were really physical on their defensive line. But I think for the Huskies, they've got to find a way to win on the road and to play better on the road and be crisper and to be cleaner. And it's their chance against an undefeated Indiana team. It's absolutely rocking and rolling. And it would be the first win, but it would be a signature win for Jed Fish on the road.
The offense is what gets a lot of attention for Indiana. You flip the script and you check out their defense. I mean, you look at the stats, and maybe the teams they've played haven't been good on the ground, but Indiana's defense ranks 4th in the country in yards per average. I mean, how many times do you see a team give up less than 3 yards a carry? They give up 2.92 yards a carry. That's like unbelievable in this day and age.
Yeah, and Washington they've had a lot of success moving the football. I thought their offensive line took a step back against Iowa. They did not look good. But before that, they had overperformed what expectations were, in my opinion, with an offensive line that had to come together in training camp, essentially. And they've been good. And Jonah Coleman is an absolute beast. He's been a little bit banged up. So that's something to keep your eye on to see if he's close to 100%, how he looks against Indiana. But Cam Davis has been good when he's been given the ball, and so has Adam Muhammad. They've got a stable of running backs that have been effective. I think that's a real key because their balance has been one of the reasons they've been able to move the football. And in terms of yards per play, Washington is one of the best. Their big problem, along with the special teams, is red zone. They have only scored touchdowns on 50% of their trips to the red zone, and that is why they have 3 losses. If they can they've moved the ball, but they have struggled to score touchdowns in the red zone. And that is just something that whatever it is that they needed to tweak in this bye week it's either play selection, play calling, just cleaning that part up, whatever it is that they've decided to clean that section up and to be their best in the red zone, because Indiana scores touchdowns. They don't kick field goals. They score touchdowns. You're going to have to match that if they continue to play it the way they've played. So that's going to be crucial.
They're college kids. They're young, right? It's, you don't hurt anymore. You can, you can drink until 3-4 in the morning. You can get up at 7 and you're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Come on.
No, I can't. Midnight, turn into a pumpkin. I'm out. You can recover faster when you're younger. I mean, duh. That's obvious. Yeah. This, though, and there's a lot of people that are not going to feel sorry for Washington because this is what they wanted. This is what they got. These 9 a.m. starts. I'm just asking, though, from a player perspective, does it take its toll on these trips? Can you get a sense of that? Because now, I know they didn't play last week, but again, back-to-back trips where you're going, a couple time zones away to face another good opponent at 9 a.m. Do you get a sense of that? Do you get a sense, I guess what I'm asking is, from the players, perhaps a wear and tear on the travel schedule?
I don't. There's been no mention of that, but I know just for me, when we got back from Rutgers, I got into my bed after the overnight flight at 6:30 a.m. So that's you go from 6:30 to 10:30. Now that's something they dealt with always on the road at Arizona or at Arizona State. It was always a night game, and it was always starting at 7, 8 o'clock, and you got home at 4 in the morning or whatever the case may be. Is there a physical thing where that takes a toll? There's no doubt, but that's the task at hand. Did I feel like the 9 a.m. kickoff for UW at Iowa was the reason why they were flat? It's impossible to tell. I thought they came out initially and were good to go. Did they possibly wear down and run out of energy in the second half? There's no question that could have been, but it's one of those intangibles that you just don't really know. Would you rather be at home sleeping in your own bed? 100%. There's no question. Right. It's harder to win on the road. It's been proven in every sport over time. Yeah. You add additional travel time, it's going to make it even more difficult. What are the percentages? Talk to the bookies that set the line, right? There's like a legit home field advantage is worth 3. And I'm telling you, if you go 2 time zones, it probably should be 4, 4.5, even more, right? It's real. But it doesn't matter. You have to find a way. I know that they've tried to make it so that they go out a day or earlier. But anybody that's ever traveled knows your body doesn't acclimate to time zones and all of that for a few days at least. So you go out there 2 days early, it might help a little bit. How much? You're just going to have to push through it physically and mentally. And, it was a 4:25 a.m. Pacific time wake-up call at Iowa. 4:25 a.m. Now, I want you to think, what college kid? You mentioned you strike, pumpkin hits at midnight. These kids are all up normally way past midnight, right? That's their natural circadian rhythm.
Sure.
So when they have to change what they're doing and get up at 4:20 a.m. or 4:25, whatever it is, that is a significant change. Mm-hmm. So we'll see how what can you do? You try your best to change that body clock before you get to game time against Indiana.
What do you think that the game plan is going to be against Indiana? It felt like against Iowa that, hey, and it feels like this. You tell me if I'm wrong. At least in the matchups in their Big Ten, going to Michigan, I'm not sure so much with Northwestern, but Michigan and Iowa, and I'm wondering if they'll do it against Indiana. Felt like they came up trying to want to establish the passing game, to get up on them early, to try and get these teams down. Maybe that was for Michigan and Iowa because they felt like we get them down, they're not going to pass their way back into it. Now, Indiana certainly can. We'll see if the backup guy can do it. But do you think that's kind of the same game plan? Because it feels like that's been the last few weeks against Big Ten opponents. That's what Jed Fish has wanted to do.
Well, the one thing about Indiana, and it is so different with a new quarterback, you don't know. But the one thing is that when you're on the road and you're facing an explosive offense like Indiana, you don't want to give them the ball back.
Yeah.
So I think they might trend more towards running the football. Now, is Jonah Coleman 100%? They're going to use that stable of running backs, but I would think they're going to want to try to work some clock and time of possession. But I think you've got to go for the jugular and you've got to go for the kill shot. They've got to score touchdowns. So as much as they're going to want to establish the run and take care of the football and move it, not give the ball back 3 and outs. They cannot afford to do that because Indiana is just too explosive. So as long as they can continue to sustain drives with, 4 yards a rush or whatever the case may be, and that's going to be a challenge against Indiana's defense, as you mentioned, that they've been good against the run. They have to do that to win this game and to take some of that time away and not give the ball to Indiana so they can rack up points. That their formula for success is going to be running the football first and foremost, and then with play action, I think, going over the top.
Do we know what Coleman's dealing with?
I don't know specifically. I know that it's at Rutgers. This is obviously a few weeks ago now, but I think he got drilled like just a thigh bruise.
Okay.
But, just something like you're running back, man. You're just getting drilled.
Lower body injury like hockey.
Well, I don't even know if that's still what he's dinged up with. I know that he got I saw him
Okay.
I if I can remember correctly, and so it's hard. I don't want to speculate on what it was, but it felt like he got drilled. Just so that should be at this point. I mean, those hurt, but I don't know what else additionally he may. And he's had a bye week to get over it, so that's why it's going to be important to take a look at these guys and see how they're doing. It sounds like Zach Durfee will be back, which will be big time for the defense. He's been dealing with that broken toe, but he's made a difference. I think that loss of Javon Parker, he was the best interior defensive lineman, and when he went down, that's a major blow to to a position that held up strongly, but that was their guy in the interior. He was a big time run stuffer. That's a big loss. And I think that's part of the reason why Iowa was able to move the ball more effectively than any other team on the run.
Well, I'm jealous. You got another trip to what I've just heard. I got a buddy that went to school there that is it's supposed to be a fabulous town. Bloomington's supposed to be great. I don't know if you've been there. The campus is supposed to be gorgeous.
It's one of the few campuses that I have not been able to go to. So,
are you going to sneak into Assembly Hall?
I'm going to try. I was a huge fan of Bobby Knight when I was young. I loved that guy. He was entertaining and
go get some shots up. Go get some shots up at Assembly Hall. I mean, Assembly Hall.
I'm gonna pull out the cream and cardinal pants, the stripes, and rip them off the warm ups and get after it.
Well, I mean, it's just one of the it's you think about college basketball, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's Cameron, and it's one of the most recognizable basketball arenas in college basketball. So go get some shots up.
And how much they revere basketball in the state of Indiana, and it's true. Like there is. The one thing when I've gone to Purdue, when I've been inside, in Indy, there literally is a basketball in every driveway. They say that, and it is true. Like it is their state's game. They love it.
Yeah.
But it's going to be fun to see too, because they've had little reason to celebrate their football team for years and years, and so it'll be fun to see that environment with them being 7-0 and. College game day there. Lee Corso is going to be there, the former coach. So it should be a really fun, electric environment. And, for the Husky team, that's fun. That's why you play the game. You get a chance to be a part of an atmosphere like that. And go. I know that the Huskies a few years ago, I'm trying to remember, it all kind of blends together for me. They went to Utah, and it was college game day there, and they got to win. They got to win in Salt Lake City on college game day. So it's a challenge, but it can be done.
You know who the guest picker is?
Who?
Mike Gastineau. The gas man.
I love it. Oh my God. I was like, who? I don't even know. I haven't heard. Oh, the gas man's going to be out there, and I might swing by the tailgate and say hi. Just, He's
drunk and obnoxious like usual, probably.
I'm sure. I mean, nobody's more excited for this Indiana run than the gas man. You know that.
He should be. It's great.
Yeah. He's going to be texting me. I guarantee.
During the game, you're working and your phone's just buzzing nonstop.
That's always great in the middle of the game when I get people texting me
fabulous.
Either good or bad. I'm like, I'm a little busy right now. I'm a little busy, but
all right. Hey, Jordan, F you on the beach in Mexico. I hope you were having a miserable time drinking margaritas.
I hope that worm just goes right into your intestines and messes them up.
Yeah, I hope you ate the lettuce there like an idiot, like a tourist. I hope you drank the water like a moron tourist, and I hope you're Montezuma's revenge on the toilet the rest of your trip. The great Elise Woodward on the show. It's all brought to you by Georgetown Brewery, locally owned and operated by Manny and Roger. They've been pouring the best local craft beer for the past 23 years. Tap room is open 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week. Go visit them at georgetownbeer.com. You can check out Puck the Huskies Podcast up on YouTube. Also, check it out on Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast, and, of course, up at pucksports.com. Safe travels, Elise. We'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good, my man.